it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to DDP Snake Pit. And of course, we couldn't do it without a pair of Hall of Famers. Of course, first up, everybody's favorite, Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake, how are you, man?
I'm on the dark side of the moon, man. That's what I can tell you.
I love it. I love it.
Again.
And here we are, jacked and in living color, Mr. Diamond Dallas Page. How are you, DDP? What's up, dude?
I'm great, buddy. I'm great, man. Excited about a lot of different things that we got going on, especially coming up to see you at live and in color in person at the tribute to Ric Flair, the last match, the roast, the whole deal. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm going to do a DDP Yoga workshop up there. It looks like we haven't finalized all that, but we're, it looks pretty good. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that everybody gets to meet all their favorites, all the favorite boys and girls. There's going to be like 100 different superstars there at StarCast. It's in Nashville, July 29th through the 31st. You can pick up all your tickets and bracelets and go to the panels and everything else at starcast.com. But the reason we're here today is to talk about some old school professional wrestling. And Jake, we'll start with you. We're going to talk about the workers today. What wrestler taught you the most while wrestling him? Like you're in the ring and you think you got it figured out, and then you realize, whoa, there's levels to this, and I just learned something new today.
Probably Len Denton.
Got you. Isn't it Len that you stumbled when you fell into the DDT?
Taught me the DDT.
Yeah.
I invented the DDT with him, but we had to go out. We were at a time in Mid-South, and we had the lovely spot of putting the time in for the card, and they wanted about 45, 50 minutes every night. And it had to be really good because the main event was Junkyard Dog and Bill Watts against Freebirds. And Bill expected a lot out of you anyway. But in that position, we had to go out and really go for 45, and we did. And it used to kill me. I'd be in the back and I wouldn't even have my boots off, and they'd be coming back from their match. And I just shook my head. Bill looked at me and said, "Kid, you learned a lot tonight." So Len Denton and I being out there was amazing. Another guy that taught me early on was a guy by the name of Moose Morawski. And he was a 300-pound man, and he took me when I was green as a gourd. And I was out in Vancouver, British Columbia, and the greatest thrill of my life was when I first went up there. They were drawing about 2,200 fans, 2,300 fans, and then we did a program and we sold out in a cage match, and it was unbelievable, to have 10,000 people watching. And Moose just went out there and just bullied me around and tossed me around like a rag doll. But at the same time, he would give it to me to give back to him. And I learned a lot from him.
For me being at the power plant, and because we didn't have that road like Jake has, completely different animal. And the luckiest thing that happened to me was that Terry Taylor would come down there on his own time. He did not have to. He was already being booked. He had a full schedule, but Terry would come down and he worked with me, Paul Levesque, AKA Triple H. He spent a lot of time with us. And I remember one time, incidentally, after we were at the, got done working out, we went to a gentleman's club, strip joint, and it was me and earmuffs, Jake. It was me and Terry and Paul. And Paul didn't drink. Paul was like choir boy back then. He still doesn't drink. He might have a couple beers here or there, but he doesn't drink. And he'd gone to the restroom, and Terry looked at me and he went, I like this kid. He'd just come in, and he said, he's got your work ethic. I said, yeah, and his age. He was like 14 years younger than me. But where I got lucky was actually getting booked with Terry out, because everybody was still under the call it out there deal, but you talk about a couple of things. And so you knew what your opening was, you knew what your heat spot was, and you know what your finish was. Well, for me, like I'm one of the first guys besides Randy Savage ever to lay a match out, like what I want to do and know where I'm going, because I felt more comfortable. But with Terry, he wasn't going to let you do that. So we get out there, and I'll never forget it. He's got me in a reverse chin lock, and it might have been no, I've got him in a reverse chin lock, and it's it's going to come up. You don't say get up or whatever. It's just tackle, drop down, hip toss, arm drag, something as simple as that. And he went, no. And I've got him down. He ain't going anywhere. Okay, tackle, drop down, hip toss, arm drag. Ready? No. Because we haven't talked about it. I don't have it in my head yet. He goes, we're doing it. And now he's fighting up. And then as they go, boom, as he sends up, he goes, tackle, boom. As I'm going, drop down, hip toss, arm drag. And when he grabbed the arm drag, it was like,
now what?
It was so easy. No, but it was so, because he talked to me while he was doing it. And you never noticed it. It's the magic trick. And like I talked to Cody when, these kids today, they don't do that. Do they lay shit out? Yes, they do. But from what I hear, and Cody told me like that match he had with Wardlow, the first one, where I saw Wardlow, wow, that kid stepped up. And I knew he was going to be in the spot he is today.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of being remembered, but not like rushing from one to a spot to another, like forgetting to where you're going. He knew how to take his time. Like it was something instinctive, and he was learning as he was going, not working. Like he worked every single day, probably 6 days a week.
7.
Well, that's when you were on top. I'm talking about the beginning.
Oh.
The beginning is so hard, and you were stiff as a board.
Oh God.
Oh, and I can remember
I was
Terry,
a stick man.
That's the way I was. And me and Terry go lighten up,
Bend
lighten up.
Bend your arm.
Because if you grab them, I can't do anything. You can't dance if you don't loosen up. And he would say that, loosen up to me. But Cody told me they don't talk at all. Like what? Like I laid shit out, and I got ridiculed from so many people until I got to Savage, who did the same thing. But there was never any ridicule to Randy, but that was the magic between me and Randy. And that's why it worked so well, because we did lay that out, but I called it preparation with improvisation, because it's never exactly what I laid out in the back. Shit's going to change. Things are going to happen. You might get knocked out, which happened to me a couple of times. And I knocked out a couple of people. You know what I mean? Shit happens. I'm not trying to do that to anybody, but it happens.
If I'd have done that, I might have made it.
Yeah, maybe. But dude, you coming up as you had all that young time, and you had those years of you weren't Jake the Snake Roberts.
Nope.
And I had years of not being who Diamond Dallas Page would be, but it was all that learning experience as I went through it. So Terry was, once I learned you could also talk in the ring after you've talked, now you reinforce what's happening so you're both on the same page. I very rarely ever, after the first couple of years, didn't know where I was or where I was going or what I was doing, because I talked as I went, because I wanted to make sure you heard what we said in the back.
The improvisation was the fun.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
What was your opinion, Jake? Who was the best at calling it in the ring that you ever worked with?
Oh God, I don't know.
Just name some great. Maybe not the very best, but just off the top of your head, some that you remember.
Man, you caught me blind there.
Well, I will throw in like Hulk would, he'd listen in the back a little bit, but we're calling it out there because that's what he knew. And that's all he knew. It was the greatest compliment in the world to me when we're going to work in Toronto. And he goes, Diamond, and we haven't talked about the match or anything, but he came in and he said, when you go to throw the boot at me and I catch it and I spin it, which way do I spin it? And I got up and I said, you got to spin me this way because if you spin me the other way, I won't get around. But if you spin me this way, my momentum can take me around. That spinning clothesline, which I stole from Mick Foley, mainly because Mick couldn't do it anymore. Because he lost that, there's certain things that went out of his repertoire that he replaced with other stuff. And that's what you do. Like Jake once told me, he had 1,000 moves, and then he had 100 moves, and then he had 5.
But I did them at the right time.
Right.
I'd say Len Denton was the guy. I mean, he talked to me constantly in the ring, and we had a lot of fun. You know, sometimes he'd rib me with a spot, you know. He'd say one tackle, drop down, hip toss, and then whenever I'd drop down, he'd just drop on top of me and beat the shit out of me, you know, just for a rib.
And that was the same way when me and you worked in Singapore and the Philippines, and I got to work with Jake, which was really great. And I remember saying to him though, when he had moved into my house the first time, and I tried the torn rotator cuff in '92 or whatever year that was. And I remember him saying, I was like, man, I can't wait to get in the ring with you. I can't wait to get in the ring. And we spent a lot of time in a power plant-esque, meaning teaching time rings. Jake spent a lot of time with me in there, but he said, you're going to learn more with me sitting on the couch, watching all those tapes you have of all those matches you have, you know, than you're ever going to learn from me in the ring. Because here I'm going to be able to explain to you and hit pause and ask you questions and blah, blah, blah. That was a huge, I think that was bigger than anything I had done. I know it was bigger than anything I had done up till that moment because we could talk about it.
We could talk about it. And I could question you about it. And we could sit there for 2 or 3 hours, but I can't go in the ring and go head to head with you for 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
It ain't going to happen.
Right. Nor do you want to.
Nor do I want to, or would I be caught dead doing it?
Right.
My body wouldn't take it anymore.
So Dallas, you know, one of the things that you've become pretty famous for, and I guess maybe the guy who did it before you that we've all heard about as fans, is the Macho Man Randy Savage in terms of laying out everything ahead of time. Was he the best that you ran across of laying it out ahead of time? Was Savage number one?
Well, he was the only one. You know, like I had heard the legend of, but yeah, remember I'd gotten to meet Randy and hang out with him, and occasionally I'd be at the bar, you know, when I'm doing one of my 40 gimmicks that I was doing, you know, and he would come up and he would talk to me a little bit of it. He'd give me little sprinkles, you know. So by the time we'd actually worked together, and I had heard the stories of him laying out, and then later on, like a lot of the boys didn't want to say they did that, but a lot of them did. Like that Warrior Hogan match was laid out. Pat Patterson laid the damn thing out, you know. But if you don't really do it all the time, it's challenging to do it.
Damn
so
right.
Back before there was iPhones, there was a thing called the Palm Pilot. And I had written down, because if you go and look at all my matches, they're all different. But there's all certain spots that you might have seen in match 1, 5, and 9, you know, 139, whatever number it was. I had all these opening spots because I couldn't remember them all. I had all these heat spots. I had all these comeback, you know, false finish spots. I had all these comeback spots. Like one of my favorite one was if I'm working with somebody in a house show or it's a top angle, I'm going to have them beat me down in the corner somehow by screwing me, beat me down, choke me out, walk out to the middle of the ring, do the bang. And by the time he turned, I'd grab the ropes, sprung myself up, grabbed him by the throat, threw him in a turnbuckle. Bing, 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 bing. Place is coming, shoot it off. Me, DDT me. And I gave them their spots.
Right.
I gave them their heat spot. I gave them my comeback spot, and I gave them their put me back down spot.
Yeah.
So I put those together like that. And I made a mistake when I went, because I was so proud of myself with all this shit, because I'd figure out a way, to move the business to the next level. Because every fucking body does it today. Everybody. So, because all that old school guys are gone. It's all the new breed. And every single person does it today in their own way. But I made a mistake of telling Vince McMahon that on my first meeting. And he just held that back in his little file back there. And that was a heat spot for me. And yeah, again, it was something I had to deal with. I thought, but Randy can do it, but it is what it is. And it's another thing of filming the matches. Nobody filmed their matches before me, did they, Jake?
Hell no.
Nobody.
God, we used to drive us crazy trying to find a place to film from. So you're going to film it for me? Yes, I'll film it for you.
Jake, in your opinion, who knew how to be a babyface better than anybody?
Ricky Morton.
Yeah.
I say both Rickies.
Yeah.
Ricky Morton and Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
And then Sting. Sting was a great babyface, man. But Ricky make you cry.
Oh yeah. He was such fun. He was fun for the people watching, the kids especially. The Rock and Roll Express had their niche, man, and they carried it all the way to the top.
Yeah, they did. 1986, they were one of the hottest acts in the entire industry.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Incredible, man.
I can remember the Birds, especially Michael P.S. Hayes, telling me stories about, the rock and roll, and like, dude, like, you don't even know. I know what you thought you saw on TV, but you don't know what it was like at the shows. He goes, these guys were like the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, they were Ricky and Robert,
gods, man.
They were that hot. And still, too, the great, it was a huge honor for me to go in the Hall of Fame with both those cats.
Yeah.
Because I was so happy that they were recognized, because you never know who's going to get recognized or not. But, and you're not, all you got to do is watch one match,
right?
From that era, and them motherfuckers were gold, period.
Who knew how to be a heel better than anybody else, Dallas?
Wait a minute. We're going back up. In public, if you will. Don't forget about Dusty Rhodes.
Hard to beat that.
Dusty Rhodes was one of the greatest baby faces of all time.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a whole different thing there.
Yeah, but I know it's working babyface, but he could sell his ass off.
Yeah.
He was like, it's kind of like we put The Rock in his own category because of what he's transcended to. That's why Dusty was as a babyface, man. I can remember one of the reasons when I was working Florida Championship Wrestling, and I mainly was because Michael Graham had brought me in to put me with Dusty, and Gordon was there that day, and Steve Kern. And Dusty had told me, that he was going to bring me in and, and really take me under his wing. That right there, man, was that was a huge moment in my life. It changed. That perpetuated everything that would be to come.
The dynamic of working heel versus babyface is often discussed, and we talked about Ricky Morton and Dusty Rhodes and Ricky Steamboat as the best babyfaces. But I think, and this kind of gets swept under the rug sometimes, Hulk Hogan was an incredible babyface in the 80s, but an unbelievable heel in the 90s. And that's a special talent, isn't it, Jake? Don't most guys,
Oh, absolutely.
they're better at one or the other, but Hogan could do both.
You can do both. I mean, I did both and it was quite easy for me, but you know, it is a gift. It is a gift, but you got to be willing to sell, man. And you got to be willing to do different things. And Hogan was so smart. He was smart about the people he put around him. You know, when you put people around you that just shore you up and make you go up higher.
Right.
He had that. He had the outsiders, you know, that basically lavished him to the top, man.
You know, it's really amazing that Hulk was a hero, you know, especially when Hulk came up. There's still people who said, no, this is real. And people would fight over it, you know. I mean, so Hulk is coming over at a time. He's not coming over at a time, you know, just that okay, wrestling's, you know, it's a work. Wrestling's entertainment. We're now called sports entertainers. He came in as a wrestler, you know, and I goes all the way back. And a lot of people know this story. A lot of people don't. But Hiro Matsudo, like they thought he was a joke in Florida Championship Wrestling. And Hiro broke his leg in the ring, whether it was on purpose or not. I wasn't there. I don't know. All I know is Hulk mended. He came back. That right there
got some attention.
That guy, he's back. Okay. And from what I would hear later from Hulk, that Hero was one of his main guys, you know, that he had earned his respect. And, you know, that's all we ever really want, especially when we're coming in is to be respected by the cats who got it there to where it is today. But him to come in as a heel, completely believable. The cat's 6'7", he's 300 plus pounds, and he's a killer. Like nobody can touch him. But when you take that same guy who's so over, and when he flips, everyone flips, he's still 6'7", 300 plus pounds. How the hell do you get sympathy with that guy unless you know how to sell?
Right.
You know, and to be Ricky Morton and Ricky Steamboat proved this, that there are anomalies, but to be a great babyface, I am nowhere near the babyface I am that got the people behind me without being that heel first.
Right.
You know, because I would think, God, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you going to the ropes and pulling yourself up? Like all the things that I would do later, you know, you got to be a heel normally. And for Hulk, is a great point. One of the greatest baby faces ever, because he changed the whole business.
Well, when you flip from babyface to heel, it's so simple. You turn your back on the fans.
Right.
You know, you blow them off. And now you've pissed on the very people that loved you. You know, and now all you got to do is just little things to twist the knife a little bit. And Hulk was good at that. You know, he started really, he was very good at it. You know, with the rags on his head, to everything that he did, changing his colors. People took that shit personally because they believed in him for so long. So long, man.
When that happened, when the NWO thing happened, and Hulk came out there and, you know, got a pop when he came out there, you think he's going to come out and save the day. But when that sumbitch flipped,
oh, brother,
and he dropped that leg on Randy, poor Randy, in that scenario. But of course, look where Randy went just a year later, you know, because of what we ended up doing, which was magic. But when Hulk did that, the letters, that just shows you how huge a baby face he was. Even though he wasn't like, the red and yellow, it's getting old. What do? You flip. And when he flipped, the sound, the phones at Turner Broadcasting were shut down. If there would have been an internet, it would have shut down. And there was an internet starting then. But if it had any kind of place in the world, it shut the fucker down. And people were, you son of a bitch. My kids are crying.
Fire him. Fire
They
him.
were so mad. And that just showed you, wow, did that work?
But see, how smart was that? Because Hogan was smart enough to know that he was getting close to the end. So you're beaten, battered, and now you're changing companies. So you're going to have to do something really special.
Yeah.
Well, he did.
He did.
He flipped on him.
When it comes down to the best workers, a lot of times these days, Dallas, the conversation goes to, well, the best wrestlers are in Japan. Did you have any great matches in Japan or with Japanese wrestlers? Who were some of the best that you worked with where you thought, man, that guy's a hell of a worker?
God, I got to work with Chono. He was, he was really over.
Yeah, he didn't do a whole lot at the end.
Yeah, but I didn't work a lot with them. And some of the guys, to be perfectly honest, I can't remember their names because I have to have someone around me like to remember exactly how to say it.
Sure.
But I worked with some of the guys who wasn't really put towards the program to me because especially coming up, I didn't have that luxury because I wasn't in that spot. Because when I was coming up, they just kept me down below, and that the highest I ever believed I'd ever ascend to is the bottom of the middle, the bottom, and that's where a lot of guys get stuck and they never get to go anywhere. So who I got to work with though, as I was, starting to come up was the Eddie Guerreros.
Yes.
The Chris Benoits. I didn't really get to work with them, but I saw a magic in Chris Jericho, who I talk about him often on our show, as I think he's one of the most over cats. They just had that pay-per-view, Jericho Appreciation, that Battle Bowl type of thing that they did. That was a top match that was, on the card.
Yeah.
As far as how the people reacted to that. And Chris, I saw that a lot with him early on. And I did get to work with him a little bit. And it was super easy. He was super easy to dance with, the guys like Chris Canyon was his own animal. Me and Jericho and Conan and Mysterio all did a whole show, on talking about all the different guys who could really go. We were on Jordan Jericho's cruises.
Jake, I saw in my research that way back when you wrestled some pretty big names like Hashimoto and Kojima. What were some of your Japanese experiences like?
Man, I had a rough time over there. I played a trick on those people. I learned this thing when taking a picture with somebody. If you'll step forward at the last minute, that you'll be bigger than them. And I took a picture with Andre. And when the picture come out, I'm only about that much shorter than Andre. And I sent that as my promotional picture to get a job over there.
Mistake.
Yeah. So when I came off the plane, they're holding a sign up for Jake Roberts. And I'm walking up and telling them, hey, I'm Jake Roberts. And they're going, no. And they're looking at the picture and they look at me, they look at the picture, they look at me and they go, you shit boy. Your name's shit boy. And they beat the dog shit out of me every night. But later on, I did get a chance to work with Hashimoto and Kazatsu. My favorite to work with over there was Kimura. And he basically wrestled American style.
Right.
And you could see that right around then. A few of the boys were making that transition, trying to make that over. And I will never forget when I went over to Japan, but I went with the company. I went with WWE. And I was listening to the crowd the first few matches. I think I was like on number 4 or 5 with Christian or something. And I came up to Shane McMahon, who was, he was the head guy on that tour. And I said, Shane, let me grab the mic when I get out there. I'm listening to them and it sounds like they're with all our shit. And I went out there and I'm figuring it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I mean, you will feel the bad. I mean, they got with the stuff that they had heard and they could sound just like Americans in that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like music, right? When you got some kind of hook, I don't care if they're
Everybody
German or
gets it.
French, when it gets to, she loves you, yeah. They're going to sound exactly like you.
Yeah.
Because they've heard that enough. The repetition can get those words out. And I was like blown away, like, oh my God, they're really, and that was 20.
It was 2002. I think it was you and Haku for the European title. You picked up a win there at the Yokohama Arena in 5.5 minutes.
Damn. You beat Haku?
He was nothing.
Oh shit!
I hope he doesn't have podcasts because he knows.
I wrestled Haku, and I told him, I said, dude, if that had been a street fight, I'd have given up 4 times.
I'll tell you, one of the nicest human beings,
thank God,
on the planet. I mean, I love that guy, man. He's a class. He's got his boys. I would imagine at some point you're going to see his boys out there, because I met him with him one time. There's some big badasses.
They're doing their thing in New Japan right now. Multiple time New Japan champs. I think it's just a matter of time before they make a big impression.
They're coming. They're coming.
I pity the fool.
Jake, let's talk about Mexico. You had some pretty famous matches down there. Did you run across any really talented performers down that way?
Oh yeah, Eddie. Oh God, you just said his name. Jesus Christ, brain fart.
Oh,
Mysterio.
Oh yeah.
Now, when I first seen Mysterio, he was 16 years old.
Right.
And I thought he was just a fan that was hanging around in the back. Like, somebody will get this fucking kid out of here.
Yeah.
You're wrestling him. What? Look, are you fucking kidding me? And of course, my job down there was to swat him out of the air, which was, that wasn't me. But they told me, said, Jake, you don't go down for drop kicks. You just knock them down. Just knock them down.
Well, you were a giant down there too.
Compared to the rest of those guys down there. But, once again, I wrestled several of the guys down there. Oh, I can't remember names. But I love to wrestle the old guy.
Paraguayo.
Yeah, man. And he knew how to dance. He didn't do much.
And he didn't have to, because
he didn't have to.
That's one of the beautiful things.
I'd sell. He'd do his furry boots and do his shit. And
that's one of the things about the Mexican people, which I love, and Japanese. Like, you could be working that territory. You get out there at 70 years old, they're still going to get with you.
Oh yeah, they respect the fuck out of you.
Like huge respect, and that's what we're going to see. At Ric Flair's last match.
Oh yeah,
because it's the same thing, but it took a while. It took someone like Rick to really get it, because I can remember when Dory Funk went, I want to say 20 minutes with Nick Bockwinkel at WCW. I can't remember what pay-per-view was that, or if it was a Saturday night, whatever thing that they did for prime time. But the people were with it, but they weren't with it the way they're going to be, and different characters.
No. Yeah, different.
But it's like sort of like it took a while for the wrestling fans to really respect the older fans. Yeah. Like when I showed up on AEW and got in the ring and lit it up for the comeback and came up the top. Like they went crazy, but they did the same thing for when Tully Blanchard was out there and killing it. And then the thing they did with the Rock and Roll Express. Yeah. Like today, like our generations of wrestling fans, they respect everything. I think so much because it has to do with, you got to give YouTube and the network, which now is on Peacock, what's old is new.
Yeah, thank God for Peacock, man, because I meet brand new fans every day.
Yeah,
that obviously weren't born whenever I was wrestling, and I'm so grateful for those kids, man.
It's great because their parents
Oh my God.
raised on you or me.
They're popping.
You know,
the kids popping.
You got to see. You think that
I'm popping.
popping?
I'm counting the money. You know, I mean, it's just really awesome, man. And it does me such good to go out to these signings and Comic-Cons and such, man, and meet the fans, and you hear their stories about the first time they see me wrestle, and with whoever was with them is gone now, and it's an emotional moment.
Yeah,
and it makes me realize that for the rest of their life, I'm going to be a part of their life, and to have that spot, man, is a hell of a deal. It feels really good, you know. And I've met a lot of people that, you know, that watch the documentary, and it's helped them. You can still see that. It's one on
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
Resurrection of Jake the Snake.
And it's helped a lot of people, man.
A lot of people, man. So, you know, and it's turned a lot of people onto what we're doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to do a little segue here because we never talk about DDP Yoga. We never do it on here.
Yeah.
So I got to put like at least, you know, a plug out to that. Anybody who wants to try the program, just go to ddpyoga.com or ddpy.com. Get 7 days free on the app. And if you're really looking to turn your life around, you know, the very first thing on the app, it's called the list. And it's the very first thing on the dashboard. If you go to the list, I promise you, if you go to the list, it brings you to this list that I have of things to do. And if you do everything on the list, you want to know why we have so many unbelievable transformations? Jake being one of them, you know, just one of them. He did everything on the list. It's like, what was his why? You know, why did he get involved? Why is he here? And making him, you know, in this spot, it's a different thing because we're dealing with, you know, addiction and stuff. Yeah. But it took a while for him to find it. But knowing what your why is and then setting up the goals and then seeing all of the different like documentaries I have you watch are like The Resurrection of Jake the Snake,
yeah,
are like Relentless, a movie like Rudy, you know, that makes you believe like, wow, look at that guy, look what he did. You know, then I educate you like Food Inc., Genetic Roulette, GMOMG. If you watch those documentaries, then you know what the food's doing to you. It's like, it's an awakening. It's a shifting. So that, you know, that's my little plug for the program. I'm going to mention it occasionally on these programs from now on, because just go to the app, go download it. It costs you nothing.
I dare you to try it.
I double dog dare you. There you go.
And tell me it don't work. You're a liar.
Well, we know there's a lot of great workers that we're talking about today, but I often think that maybe the brawlers don't get their just due. And Jake, you were around for some of Bruiser Brody's era, and man, what a legend he was, gone way too soon. But you want to talk about an impression. That guy left an impression on the folks in the business and certainly the folks in the seats, right?
Yeah. I had the pleasure of refereeing some of his matches. And it was scary being in there because he made you believe. And if you didn't believe, he's going to run over your ass. You know, if you got in the way, he'd run over your ass because I don't think he really knew which way he was going to go for the next step. He just went. And wherever he went, he wanted to. And nothing's going to stop him. I've never seen anybody clear out an arena like he could by simply going into the crowd. You know, a lot of guys might think they'll go into the crowd. They'll second think themselves when they get out there. But Brody never second thought himself, man. He just charged out there and he'd move waves of people. And rightfully so. He was a monster. Huge, man. And he just had that look and the way he walked and everything was there. It was like some giant animal that was just there to eat and kill and devastate, you know. But
I mean, if I was an enhancement guy in that spot,
oh God,
going against Brody, I mean, I would be scared.
Yeah,
you know, because
he was scary, man.
He was believable. I think as anybody has ever been in the business.
Yeah,
like okay, you're gonna do what?
And what was really crazy is in Louisiana, they tagged them up, Stan Hansen and Brody.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. I remember Hanson going up into the balcony in Houma, Louisiana, beating up a guy and then coming back down, getting in the ring. And the guy that he was in the ring with still had his arm in the same position. He just went grab the hold. I didn't count him out. I'll tell you that. I wasn't counting that son of a bitch out.
If you go back to the Japan stuff, when they came through, like if you've never seen like Brody or Stan Hansen in Japan, like, and then you see them people running for their lives.
Yeah.
Like that shit's crazy, man. That shit was crazy. Like the Japanese people really have gone through a really an amazing change and shift over the years.
Yeah,
They used to be
it was one clap.
yeah, and then they didn't make a lot of noise. They do now.
Yes, they do. And let's talk about that. Wrestling has changed quite a bit, in more recent years. Kurt Angle, Bryan Danielson, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, they've all been mentioned as being one of the best in the world. What did you think of a Kenny Omega the first time you saw that style, Dallas?
Oh, I'll tell you, you want to know the first time I'd seen him? I was blown away how he could take the punishment, not just give it, but take the punishment. Felt the same way about the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
I was like, how are they doing all of this, taking this impact that, and I'm talking about bumps on the apron, which is what's outside of the ring ropes.
The hardest shit there is.
You might as well take a bump right here.
This would be softer.
With a little piece of rubber on top. And I mean, watching the moves, I'll tell you one of the ways that Kenny Omega can still do what he does, and this is not paid for advertising, but I'm going to tell you, my boy, Kent Backler, up at Life Med Institute in Baltimore. That's where he takes care of all the boys. He's had so many of the boys up there getting the stem cells. Kenny, like me, he's trying to fight back the hands of time so he can continue to do what he's doing. But my boy Ken, he takes care of the boys up there. He doesn't give it to them, but he ain't making no money on it. Not for them. He's taking care of the boys up there. They go up there and get the stem cell replacement. So Kenny's not doing stuff. You're like, he's doing everything to be able to do it. But when I first watched him in the ring, and then heard his story, how he was down at the Performance Center in WWE and kind of realized this is not for him and left on his own. He didn't get let go.
Wow.
He pulled it wasn't the same kind of deal that Cody pulled, making the big money and then walked away. But he still had the insight to know I'm going to bring something special to this world of professional wrestling. And he has. Yeah. I think that
so he impressed me just blew my mind.
I couldn't believe the things that, and knowing it's like, we've all been like this in the back where you're walking around like this because your body's so beat up. First time I ever really saw it was when I first started wrestling, and Terry Funk, who was a fucking killer out there.
Yeah. Terry
was hunched over and he was the nicest, quietest, sweetest human being on the planet. And then that guy go out there and just be an animal.
Yeah.
One of my favorite artists ever in our business is Terry Funk.
Yeah.
And watching him all the way through. But again, Kenny Omega, I just couldn't believe the moves that he could do. I especially loved when Jericho, you know how I feel about him, fucking went over there and they sold out the Tokyo Dome. I mean, putting that two Americans on top that could do that and
That's
put
ballsy.
it in 60,000 people, it says a lot. And when Cody talked about we could sell out 10,000 seats, it wasn't him, it was him, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega.
Yes.
Like that was the four guys. And those are the four guys who really started the AEW. They're the guys, so they made a pretty big impact.
I think they did okay. Somebody else who did okay.
I gotta tell you one thing though. I think I want to say the first time I'd was paying attention. I'd already watched their matches or whatever, but I caught a highlight film, and it was just 7 minutes. But it was the Young Bucks and Kenny and the Japanese kid, Golden.
Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, that might be it. I can't remember his name, but good looking kid. It's those two. It was just the highlights.
Oh God.
Of the bumps.
Yeah.
On the plane. You go, oh my God. I mean, people are got my headset on, and I must have went, oh my God, like
What the fuck?
9 times watching this highlight reel. Then I went back and watched the whole match, which was probably like 28 minutes or 26 minutes or something. But wow, the punishment that those cats put on their body. I mean, it's a lot. And they love popping the people, man.
Yeah, I love watching Kenny work out there. He's so amazing. He gives it and he takes it. There's a lot of guys that can go out and punish people.
Yeah.
But Kenny sets himself up to be punished.
Yeah, he does.
And that's pretty amazing. And I've had the fortune of, being at AEW to watch him several times. And anytime I see that he's on the card, I'm there watching, and between him and the Japanese cats, man, oh my God. Not the Japanese, the Mexican
brothers, Lucha Brothers.
Lucha Brothers.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, I think Ray Phoenix might be one of the most underrated wrestlers in the world.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
I want to mention my favorite. I've thought he was the best wrestler in the world since about 2003. Bryan Danielson.
Thank you. Oh,
so you
who?
Bryan Danielson has been described by Mr. Regal as being a perfect wrestler. He said, if there ever was a perfect wrestler, it's Bryan Danielson. Yeah. You've seen them all, Jake. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to take you back a few years. I was doing a signing. I can't remember where it was, somewhere in the Midwest. And I seen this Bryan Danielson was going to be there. I'd seen him a couple of times on WWE, and they let him go.
Well, they didn't let him go. He asked for his release.
Okay. Well,
he asked for his release. They ain't letting that cat go.
Right.
Way back.
But
this is way back.
Are you talking about before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is way back.
Oh, okay.
He got let go. He done something. I can't remember what he done, but he done something, and they let him fired him, let him go, and he was so depressed. And he came to me and he's like, Jake says, you may have heard I got in trouble, blah blah blah. He did something stupid. I can't remember what it was.
He choked Justin Roberts with a tie, and that was a no-no.
Okay.
He did what?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the Nexus angle, but Nexus invaded Raw and took over the.
Yeah, sure, I remember that. Yeah.
Well, they wanted it to look like a gang scene, and they said, "Hey, just destroy everything at ringside." So Bryan Danielson's pretty tight with Justin Roberts. He went over, beat him up, and then, of course, the dapper yapper wears a tie. Well, he just pulled it around his neck and was choking him with it, and that was a no-no. And they said, "You're out."
Yeah. Wow, yeah. I never knew that story.
So I talked to him. I said, "Brother, don't worry about it, because you got one thing they can't give away.
Talent.
Just be cool right now. Go over and do something else. It doesn't matter. Just stay cool. Your hands have been slapped. That's what's going to happen. They're going to get you back. Don't worry. You got too much talent to be stopped." And boom, 6, 7 months later, he was back.
Regal pulled me, when I was in Atlanta, he pulled me over. He wanted me to introduce me to him. He says, "This guy's gonna be one of the best guys ever." I shook his hand. And you listen to someone like Steven Regal, telling you that the guy's going to be good. And you haven't been on the podcast that we've done, Conrad, but one of the days, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, whatever, I think he's the best guy in the world. I think he is the
right
best.
Now. Yeah.
I think people can call themselves the best. No. There's one guy who could go 60-minute Broadway. And what I loved where he's at right now, he's older.
Yeah.
He really understands the business.
He's savvy.
at a different level. He understands selling now
Yes.
at a different level, where before he could sell, but now you're cheering for him, to come on, or whatever the spot is. It's just it's the next level of storytelling that he's at that very few guys get to. I go back to where when he was white hot in WWE, and I talk about that one spot of him on top of the cage and the entire building doing yes.
Yeah.
And he's not the poster boy for what WWE, and it was very evident. They even booked it around that. They want some guy who's 6'3" or 260 pounds. They weren't looking for a guy like that.
Nope.
But that's who the fans wanted.
Yeah.
So when he got down to his contract for him to go, they were like, okay, go ahead. And I always thought that was a mistake losing him, because he's, he, at any level, but I think
he's done so much for him already.
Yes.
He really had. And for them to let him go was just a foolish move.
But hey, good for him though.
Yeah.
Great for him.
Good for him.
Yeah, now you'll work less and make more.
Right. And last longer.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one last name. And Dallas, you were able to be in the ring with him in singles action on 2 separate occasions. Mr. Kurt Angle. How great was Kurt when you finally got to hook up with him in 2001?
Man, that cat, he was smooth.
Butter.
He was smooth. Like, it wasn't like it was like dancing with a partner who's going to make it look real. It wasn't too smooth. It was rough enough to be believable. And who's more believable than Kurt Angle besides Brock Lesnar? And the guy, I think he's one of the most entertaining cats of all time. Another, for him to have been the headliner when I went in the Hall of Fame, I'm in the same class with him. So, super, super cool for me all the way around. But I just thought he was unbelievable, man. I thought like he got to really go out there and for, I think it was like a year, and just work the house shows and to really learn his craft. And by the time he got there, and what really amazed me about him was his comedic timing. Like the stuff that he did with Austin and stuff, and when he wore the little hat, with his shaved head, and he wasn't afraid to make fun of himself, and
How
have
many
fun
guys
with it.
like doing that?
Yeah, and then go out there and then be a killer. And who's gonna love and get the people behind him? You suck, and for him, you suck means you're the greatest.
Yeah.
And that's what the fans are saying. They're not saying Kurt Angle sucks. It's what, at the time, let's build that heel deal. But it's just a tribute all the way around.
Well, and we're going to try to do a tribute next week to 2 people we think a lot about, Mr. Johnny B. Bad, aka Mark Marrow, and of course, everybody's favorite, the Diamond Doll. You think we got a lot to talk about there next week, Dallas?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, boy.
I think so. Mr. Mark Marrow, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about it. And I will play. If you've never seen Mark doing any of his inspirational stuff that he does for kids, he connects to kids at a different, like adults as well, but to kids, they're the hardest group of people.
Man, they'll tear your ass up.
Yeah, man. I mean, they'll be on their phones.
They'll blister you, man.
When that cat starts talking,
They listen.
E.F. Hutton there.
And God bless him for doing it.
And we hope you guys listen next week right here on DDP Snake Pit.
See ya.